Good morning. We're at Ventura Harbor. We're going to be taking a boat over to Santa Cruz Island to hike on Santa Cruz Island and Channel Islands National Park. All right, so we got away. We had to listen to a 15-minute orientation. I almost got sick on the boat. I was not feeling good. So hopefully my stomach is settled now. But we are climbing up on the cliffs. We're gonna head to Cavern Point and then eventually to Potato Harbor. Gonna head up on Montanon Ridge and to the high point, Montanon Point or mountain or peak, and then we'll follow the ridge. We'll drop down to a couple beaches, and then it'll be about 15 miles, maybe more. I have about 5 hours. So I took off running. Everyone looked at me like, what is this guy doing? Just want to make sure I have enough time and don't miss the boat back. So we're heading up here. When we get up here, it'll be flat or flatter. All right, so we've gotten up on the cliffs. We are gonna eventually head up and summit that point and then drop down the backside. But that's still quite a while away. We're gonna hit a lookout point here called Cavern Point, which I think will be the 1 mile mark. And then we'll continue along the coast for several miles to Potato Harbor. All right, let's check it out. So Cavern Point is 80 yards up here. All right, we're gonna add 80 yards each way. I'll show it to you when I'm up there. All right, this is Cavern Point. And along the coast we are going. Gorgeous out here. This is Potato Harbor. I mean, I could wind my way down all the way to that tip if I really wanted to. Could probably get down to the beach, but I'll probably call it here and not do my little ridge peninsula traverse. There's another harbor there. I think this one's Potato Harbor though. So I gotta backtrack 1/10 of a mile, get on a trail, and then I'm heading up to that ridge up there. You can't see the high point, it'll be beyond. But 3 miles in at Potato Harbor here. So we've gradually come up quite a ways. You can see the views are starting to open up. This is a massive island, by the way, but that's not our high point. We will get up that thing though, and then continue on the ridge. When we get up there, I think we'll see the high point, but it's deceiving because you're on this like dirt road looking path and it doesn't go up super steeply, and then before you know it, you're gaining the ridge proper up here. So look at those views, and just like that, we've gained the ridge, and now ridge life has begun for the next probably like 3 miles. We'll summit this one, drop, eventually hit the high point, drop off the backside of the high point. So we just went off trail for a little bit to hit the summit of this little peak on the ridge. Wow. Yeah. Woo. And that is our high point where those radio towers or buildings are, where we're going. So we're gonna go along the ridge. It's actually not that much higher. I mean, that might be 400 feet higher. This is ridge life. If you're curious what ridge traversing looks like, it's not necessarily a super narrow drop, but you are on the spine of the mountain ridge, and there's ups and downs and flats, and it's honestly really cool because you get these views to either side. So I like ridge type stuff. This is an easy ridge traverse, but you know, sometimes they can be narrow and rocky and scrambly, like on the high Colorado 14ers or the hard Colorado 14ers. So yeah, just working my way. It looks like a mini drop here, but then I'll wrap around and eventually gain that way. So we've hit this junction. If you're doing the mini loop, which is, well, it's not mini, it's like 8.6 miles, you're gonna loop back that way. I missed, these signs weren't here 5 years ago, and I completely missed this. I don't know how, it's obvious, but I continued this way and summited that high point. Didn't have a map downloaded and was like, crap, I think I'm too far. I was looking back where I needed to go, and I luckily came back and found this. But I was worried for a brief period that I'd be running close to missing the boat. Of course, I wasn't. I got back with like an hour to spare, but I put in 10 miles that day or something. But I am definitely moving faster and in much better fitness than I was 5 years ago. So, and I have a map. So, continuing on the ridge here. Sorry, just so you can see if you're doing this, there's a junction here on the ridge. We do not want to take 10 miles down to Prisoners. That's taking us a completely different place. Scorpion 4. Oh, that's if you take the shorter way back, not the way I came. I was gonna say I'm probably like 5.5 miles in if I had to guess. So I'm making a left at that junction to continue on the ridge to Montanon Peak. Well, we've made it to our high point. It actually shows it as that one, so never mind, we have not. But you can see our little peak out there that we summited, you know, 20-30 minutes ago. This is an awesome view of the whole island. Well, you can see very far. More towers over there. You can see where we got dropped off. That's Scorpion down there, tucked down in there where you start to see those buildings. That's the island of Anacapa, and you can see the mainland. It's hard to see in the camera, I'm sure, but you can basically see sort of our route, although it's hidden back here. All right, official summit. I guess it does look slightly higher than that. It might be like 20 feet higher. So this is the official summit. So we're dropping down to a couple different, I'm not sure where they are, Yellow Banks Beach and Smugglers Cove. So we've seen our first foxes. They're endemic foxes on this island. 2 of them just started running, but this one stopped. See him right there? Hey. Hey, little guy. So I took the left rib down, by the way. Hey. He's so tiny. I saw a bunch 5 years ago. These are the first ones. Look at them. So cool. This trail probably gets pretty primitive. Not that it already isn't, but yeah, I think we're just following this ridge straight down, and then we'll branch down to Yellow Banks. So there's our peak up there. We came down, I don't know, we've come down a good 400 feet, but we just had to summit this little bump, go over this little bump on the ridge, which was sort of cool. So now we're gonna start to see over to all this lower plateau after we get over this hump here. But still have quite a bit. I mean, we're going all the way down to the beach on to 3 different points. Oh, look at this, it's marked to go this way. I was gonna go down that way. So I guess that's good, it was marked. So if you do this, just be aware, there's not much of a trail down. I actually went down the wrong rib. I was on that one briefly. I mean, I dropped 100 feet too low, if that, and just went back up. But luckily I was looking at the map, and honestly, I could have just continued down and then cut over probably. The terrain is easy enough. But just be aware, it's not easy to follow this trail on the back side. So just have a map downloaded and know how to use it. It looks like I'm seeing a trail in the grass here coming up. All right, so we've hit our junction. Yellow Banks is gonna be, I think, 0.7 miles, and we're gonna drop like 400 feet down to the water. So we're just gonna have to get, this is just a spur to come down and back. And then once we get back here, we'll have 1.2 to Smugglers Cove, if you can see this, and 4.7 back to the Scorpion Beach. I don't think Smugglers Cove is really out of the way. It calls Montanon Ridge an off-trail route. Kind of. I mean, you know where you're going, but it's not that well defined. So I'm gonna have to drop and then regain this, but I got plenty of time. So this trail is like an overgrown weed road. I'm so glad I have pants, by the way. I'm brushing against all sorts of stuff. Apparently there's ticks all over this island. So I would highly recommend wearing pants if you're doing this. Yeah, unmaintained trail. No S Sherlock. But yeah, this is a fantastic trail. Sarcasm. But we're headed down to this beach, it looks like. All right. Apparently it's Yellow Banks because of the, I guess the rock, the cliffs are kind of, I mean, they're not really yellow, but this isn't much of a beach. It's all rocks. So, I mean, I had to pick, if I only had to do certain things on this, or only had time to do certain things, I probably wouldn't go here, but there's a bunch of birds or something on that. So there's Anacapa, Yellow Banks Beach, or Yellow Banks Cliffs, and Rocky Beach. On another overgrown grassy road, we see a building. We're headed to Smugglers Cove, which I think is this beach down here. There's your view of where we were. We were just down there at Yellow Banks. And over here, I believe this beach, oh, and more people on the road, is gonna be Smugglers Cove down here. So we just have to drop down here, you know, not far. Honestly, I was gonna say I could probably just, why don't I just go right down right here? All right, so we just went down the hillside. The only issue is that there's this creek, and I'm not totally sure. Oh yeah, I can walk on the beach. It was like, I don't want to wade through that water. All right, so this will allow us to cross this water here. And then we'll head up that dirt road, I think, right there. And I think there's a bathroom. So yeah, Smugglers Cove, Anacapa. We got about 3.5 miles left to Scorpion and over 2 hours of time to accomplish that. So we've been averaging around 15-minute miles or so. So we got plenty of time to play with. Well, this Smugglers Cove road has come up quite a bit, higher than I thought. I mean, we could be talking like 500 feet. I'm hopeful that I finally hit the high point of it, but who knows? There could be a drop and then you might have to get over another rib. So I don't know, but for now, we've at least hit a local high point. It's just so muddy too. About a mile and a half back, I'm starting to pick people off that just day hike 3 or 4 miles in. Still mud. My feet are pretty wet. So we're about back. We just need to take this road down the last, half mile or so. I'll show you some of the informational stuff at the buildings. So there's our dock waiting for a boat here. And then there's bathrooms and some potable water somewhere down here. Alright, so that's a wrap on Santa Cruz Island. I'll give you the rundown on what I read in there. Basically, I read a lot about the animals. I knew there were foxes on this island. There's over 300. I saw 4 today. The population was 1,500 at one time, and all the eagles, all the golden eagles, I believe, were eating them. And so the foxes were down under 100, and they were listed as endangered, and then they started breeding them in captivity. Now they're up over 300. But they removed golden eagles from the island. They also removed non-native sheep and pigs from the island. This was all in like the last 20-25 years. But they've reintroduced bald eagles to the island apparently. So all sorts of issues with endangered plants too. So it seems like between the animals and plants there's quite the balance going on about them becoming endangered and then getting removed and all sorts of stuff. So I would think you should just let nature work its course. But I'm just sitting on a picnic table. I got over an hour to kill. So I wanted to show you this topographic map. I told you the story about how I missed the trail down 5 years ago and was up on the ridge, and luckily found it down. I didn't have a map downloaded. I didn't have all trails or anything at that point. The reason I knew I was too far is because I had studied this model before I left, and I knew I was too far along the ridge based on the angle I was seeing Scorpion Cove to, and I knew I had to backtrack because I knew where the trail down was. So just to show you what we did, this might be hard to show you. We started over here at Scorpion. We came up the Cavern Point loop trail. We went along to look at Potato Harbor here. We came up here onto the ridge, went higher along the ridge to the high point right here, dropped down the ridge, I believe this left spur, and then it doesn't show the trail, but I ended up down at Yellow Banks here, came back up, went to this overlook point, shortcut down to Smugglers Cove, and then took Smugglers Road all the way back here. So yeah, Anacapa Island's 5 miles away.